Hey, Strong Girls. I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha, executive director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting-edge research on female athletes.
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy.
And occasionally TMI.
But it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
All right. Hi, Strong Girls. Welcome back to episode 2 of Strong Girl Talk. I'm Molly Herford. Today, my friend Sasha and I are joined by our other good friend, Micha Powell, Canadian Olympian, author of Sprinting Through Setbacks, an Olympian's Guide to Overcoming Self-Doubt and Imposter Syndrome, an amazing 400-meter runner, an amazing friend, and honestly, one of the women who really understands what it means to be a role model and to have great role models. So before we get into it, Sasha, what were your key takeaways from this awesome conversation?
Oh, there were so many. Gosh, you really just put me on the spot. I mean, I'd say it really came back to thinking about the science that we talked about around role modeling in our first episode. I really loved how she talked about how she thinks about comparison, how it can be both a fuel for inspiration, but how it can really harm you. I loved her views on coaching, right? Really starting from the strength, talking about the positivity sandwich. I just think it's so important with young people these days to talk about the positive things first. There's so much negativity. What about you, Molly? What were your big takeaways?
I loved that. I mean, I'm the selfish one who asked the question about, not falling into comparison with role models because, personally, I'll say that's something that I definitely struggle with. And I thought her take on it of really especially before you're looking online at people you consider to be role models, we all do it. We all scroll Instagram and even if we say we're looking for positive role models, let's admit it, it can get a little negative sometimes. And I loved her thought about taking a beat and really thinking about who you are, where you are now, how far you've come before you start the scroll, before you start seeing what your role models or the people you look up to are doing. And, there's a difference between falling into comparison trap and resenting your people you look up to almost versus looking at them as inspiration, aspiration, but still knowing that you can stay in your own lane and be doing your own thing. Also, her advice on boundary setting, fantastic. Cannot emphasize how important that is, especially for young women who have big goals. I mean, okay, even for us who are no longer super young women. How are your boundaries going, Sasha?
What are those? Yeah. But to your point, I think it's such a good reminder. It's a good check-in for yourself about what your boundaries are. But I think the one thing, as I'm reflecting upon what you're saying now and what Micha said, it's really about writing down, right? That mind connection of writing something. I mean, you're my publishing inspiration, but you're such an inspiration. You really make an effort to get people to have that connection. And I think to truly not compare yourself before you scroll is, and you'll hear Micha say it so eloquently, is to write down who you are. And teaser, I've got some stuff on that. But how important it is to check in on how amazing you are.
Love it. Love it. And I think when you do that, it helps you be firmer in your boundaries and firmer in who you are. Love it. Okay, let's get into this conversation. Enjoy our chat with Micha Powell. Micha, we are so excited to have you as our first guest on Strong Girl Talk. Welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, and congratulations. I'm super, super excited to be the first guest. I mean, you are both two incredible, super strong, accomplished women who I'm so happy that you're going to be sharing your voices and our stories, and I'm super happy to be a part of this.
Well, thank you. And okay, so our first episode was all about the importance of having women role models in sport. And we decided you were the perfect guest because you, I know, speak so much about both being a role model, but also I know, you've had such an interesting kind of journey with who your role models have been as you've grown up. So I think the first thing I wanted to ask is like, you seem to have a really solid, like the thing I noticed about you as soon as we met is like, you completely understand that you are a role model for young
Yeah.
women. Like it's,
Yeah.
I think just seemed so inherent to you that everything that you do, you're thinking about the fact that there are
Hmm.
young women who are watching you, learning from you, wanting to be like you. So
Yeah.
my first question is just like, is this something that you've always had inherently,
Hmm.
or is this something that
Hmm.
you've like developed over time with your career?
Oh, that's a really good question. I want to say I'm leaning more towards I've always known that I've had that in me. I did grow up as an only child for most of my life because I have two half sisters, but they're a lot younger than me and they live in California. So funny enough, I think when as soon as I became a big sister, it's like I knew, oh wow, like I'm 10 years older than them. So whatever I do, they're going to be probably looking at and using as inspiration. But yeah, my mom raised me, and so I think I just followed closely along with her. You know, she was traveling with me from the time I was 3 months old, going to meets in like Germany, and just I think emulating her my whole life. Always carrying myself, thinking about how I can just be as positive as possible, but also now getting older, and as you said, now getting more deeper into my career, recognizing that also means being a role model is like standing up for yourself and setting good boundaries. So I've noticed it's like I've turned into a role model that I find is more well-rounded, not just, oh, I'm always happy and like everything's good. It's actually now that I'm a coach for UTTC, it's recognizing when my high school athletes are having a rough time, and I just coach them through as opposed to just being like, oh, this is supposed to happen. It's like, you know what, let's break this down. What's going on? And I've been through this too. So then you kind of see their guards come down a little bit. And yeah, I'm recognizing now my grow like how I've grown up, having my mom as my role model, and then having being always in a sport. And I think taking the lead whenever I could, as long as I can remember, I've always been like, I want to be up there. I want to be, like in a position that is making some decisions, but also bringing people along with me. That's I think always been my motto. Yeah.
Ooh, love it. Love it. And okay, I know I love what you just kind of said about like shifting from, yeah, that like the role model has to be always positive, always happy all the time. Like that's just the only thing a role model can be to
Mhm.
really, I think I've seen you shift over in the past 2 years since we met, like really standing up for yourself and like setting appropriate boundaries,
Yeah.
around, work, friendships, like
Hmm.
all of that different stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like just how you've kind of come to that place, because I think setting boundaries feels like it's a very like timely topic, a very important one, and I think a lot of people listening are like, oh geez, I need to do that.
It's too bad. Yes. Okay. Well, I live in Toronto. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Montreal, but I've been living here for a while now. And the work-life balance is kind of insane. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Especially since COVID, I always just kind of felt like, oh my gosh, I have to catch up. Even if I was on the right course to getting to my goals, I just always felt like I should have been doing more until finally I was recognizing that, for example, in our book, in sprinting through setbacks, I was at world championships at the same time as doing, cold calls and doing jobs for my work at the time. When I told them that I made the world championships team, so I wasn't going to be available. But of course, I'm like, no, I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to be a good employee. Meanwhile, recognizing, dude, this is my goal. This is my dream. I need to give it my best shot. So that's actually something that I keep going back to. Like recently, I just recently stopped working at my part-time job as a fitness instructor, and although I love the environment there, they're super supportive. All women. You would think that it was like a women-only studio, but it wasn't. Just so happened that all that good energy was, attracting so many amazing women. And unfortunately, I had to make the hard call, and I said, you know what, I can't sustainably wake up at 6 a.m. when I'm coming home at 7 after coaching and training myself. And so that was one of the harder times that I've had to say, okay, I really have to put now my priorities first. But I think that it was a perfect way to do it because I started by telling my boss, Linda and Shayna, they're amazing. I said, by the way, my goal is to make the indoor world championship team. And so there will come a point where I'm going to have to step back. And they were so funny. They're like, of course, we're going to be here with you. But then when it happened, they're like, no. So as long as you're, really open at the beginning, then you don't, at least for me, I didn't feel guilty. There wasn't that sense of like, oh no, I should have told them. It's like I told them from day one, even though it kept getting more like it was harder to say, okay, I've got to cut this because I have my members who were coming to my classes specifically to be taught by me. And it was just a really nice thing that I recognized you can actually do both. You can be really good at your job and also set those boundaries. So that was a no-brainer. And then with friends, I think that it's kind of just naturally been a very, I think, apparent like set of criteria. It's just like I have friends who understand that I'm going to be traveling up the year, and it doesn't mean that I don't love you, you know, if I don't get back to you quickly. It's just that I'm right there going for my goals for the next 4 years. And I love how like when we do come back together, it's like no time has passed. So I think that's been really simple, just having people who understand my goals and don't think that because I'm not talking to them in the moment because I don't care. It's like I just have to focus on what I need to do. And so overall, I think I've gotten my stress levels a lot lower since putting those priorities first and not feeling guilty about doing that. I think that's really a key thing. And I have to say that I really feel like it's definitely something that a lot of women I notice in my circles often experience. And not to say that men don't, but I just hear about it more when it comes to women because I find we always set the standard so high for ourselves when in reality, like we're never, you know, falling short. If anything, we're just thinking about it like well, we have to do it all, whereas actually just showing up and prioritizing what you need to without adding more on your plate, I think it's key. And again, going back to sprinting through setbacks, that's why I love talking about that balance chapter and recognizing that it just applies to every part of everybody's life, whether they're going after a goal in work or a goal in athletics or a goal in their family, you know, being a great family member. It's really, really, like you said, it's timeless about putting those boundaries down and even including people in it, you know, like telling those people that, hey, I need you to like make sure I don't say yes to everything and then I'm going to be tired. And then it's like, you know, it takes a village for sure.
100%. And that's why in the workbook, Sprinting Through My Setbacks, we walk you through how to do
Yeah,
that for yourself and figure out your schedule.
there we go. Exactly.
It's so fun to listen to you too, but the researcher hat's going on, right?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
We're
Yes,
going back to the
yes,
researcher on role models.
I love it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know you and your mom, right? Your mom was one of my role models, right? And
Wow.
when I hear you talk, there's a lot of your mom that comes through. And so like,
Mhm,
I look at your success and I see you had this incredible role model, right? You could
mhm.
see where you wanted to be because of her.
Yeah.
Will you share more about your mom as her role model?
Can we maybe talk about her
Yes.
email habits too on the note of boundaries and your mom?
Yes.
Because I love her so
Done.
much. It's
Okay. Oh
ridiculous.
my gosh, Sasha, I'm so happy you brought this up. Yes. Okay. So, like Molly said, something that my mom does that has stuck with me now is the way that she communicates, specifically with her emails. She does not go on a long tangent. She gets straight to the point, and she's so clear and so precise with what she wants. There are no smiley faces. There is no could I, can maybe just no nothing small, right? It's what it is, it's timely, and it's nothing apologetic. There's nothing apologetic about it because why? Why are you sorry? You know, like stand up for what you want and you're just sharing information. That's it. So she's been amazing in that way of just really promoting me to advocate for what I want and not being afraid to go big for what you believe in. And I think that that's so helpful because a lot of times I will find myself like second guessing sending an email or adding so many like, oh, okay, maybe this, just send it. And I think that she, being, as you know, a three-time Olympian, and she had me in 1995. So she actually broke the Canadian record in 1996 at the Olympics once again, a year after having me. So I think something that she told me was like when she had me, there was just kind of this really clear focus that she had, right? It's like, okay, well, it's me and my kid. So there was nothing that was going to kind of like stop her from going after her big goals. And on top of that, like it is really important to have people that help you. So my grandmother watched me while she would race, but she actually brought me along. So I was that kid at the Atlanta 1996 Olympics, 1 years old, had no idea what was going on. But I remember, well, I don't remember. People tell me that I saw her and I was like, Mama. So as for, I think, yeah, since I was born, there was always that association of you're going to go after what you want no matter what. And you're going to do everything you can, and just remember that you're not alone. But it's true, your circle is going to be quite small because the way that my mom carries herself, like she can't give her energy to everybody. Like she works on a morning show. She's talking all the time. So in the afternoon, like we have our chats. She's my coach. And so we're having like really good detailed talks about my workouts and my plan, and what we're going to do in the next couple months. But my mom on TV versus my mom when it's just me and her, it's very different. It's like yeah, it's kind of interesting how she does her TV personality, and then she has like my mom and my coach who's just like super down to earth. I don't know, it's just like it's nice to see how she navigates through life, because it is really important to protect your energy, and she does is talk all day. So I definitely see where that can be pretty exhausting if you feel like you're obligated to always give and give and give, and she does a great job of balancing that. And I'll also now, because I'm her mini me, I'll tell her, I'm like, if she answers and she's tired, I'm like, no, like hang up, go take a nap, it's okay. So it's nice being really like honest with each other about those kind of things. And then I think also just because my mom also, she's a single mom, and so growing up without a partner, that was definitely a key, I think, influence on how she raised me, because it was just her and I all the time. So there really wasn't room for like um not just secrets, but like, half truths. Like she was going to tell me exactly where she was at, and I understood how things kind of worked at a pretty young age, because I knew that my dad, although he was, again, like a super supportive dad, he wasn't there physically. Like I would go see him maybe once or twice, maybe a year, if that, because he was in California, I was in Montreal. And so it was just me and my mom, and I thought that that was the coolest thing ever, because she always included me on what she was doing, and like later on as I got older, how she was feeling as well. So I remember something really funny, that I think you'll appreciate this story. We had a car up until, I want to say, I was about 14, because before then she was like driving me everywhere. And finally we're in Toronto at this point. She goes, Misha, she's like, I can't take it. I can't take driving you to your tennis lessons. I'm getting rid of this car. And I was like, okay, okay. And so there we go. She got rid of it, and I took the TTC everywhere. I've been a TTC kid since I was 12, and that just shows you right there. Like it didn't come out of left field. She was doing so much for me, and at that point, I'm 14. I can take on a little bit more responsibility. So I'm really glad that she's always been super transparent with me and super supportive and collaborative. I think that's really what makes us such a dream team, and super excited to now take on these next 3 years with her as my coach. And she also is in the female coaches program through Athletics Canada. So the goal would, of course, be for her to be on the LA 2028 coaching staff, and then having me on that team would be a dream.
Oh, I love it. Sasha, do you have any research follow-ups or role model follow-ups here?
I mean, I do, but
Well,
we don't need to do them. I think we need to ask some other. This is about Misha. This isn't about the research.
well, actually, I mean, the coaching thing is super interesting because you're still competing. You still have 2028 on the schedule, but you have also shifted to doing some coaching. And I do want to touch on that and sort of the importance of that, because I know you're not just coaching girls, you're also coaching the boys team. And talk to me about how they respond to having a strong female role model and coach.
Okay, something I will say, and I have to toot my own horn, is that from day one, I knew that it was going to be a little bit strange to see a coach doing the workouts with the athletes. But I remember just telling them, immediately how I'm going to be training alongside them. I have my goals as well. And I remember they were a little bit like, what was happening here? And it was like, as soon as I put on my shoes and I was running alongside them, doing like a repeat, I think we had like a K, 800, 600, 400, 300, 200. It was insane. It was like a super long Queen's Park run. And they were just, I could tell like in awe that I just did the whole workout. And I'm talking the whole time, timing them, telling them their rest. And I remember seeing the boys, because I was running with the guys because our paces are very similar. And I was telling them their rest. And one kid, it was so funny. He's hilarious. He goes, Miss, and I was like, what? He goes, Miss, I think that you're lying. I don't think that that's our rest. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, I understand because I'm young. Like, they think that, oh, like she's like us, but it was so good. I was like, this is your rest. I have it on my watch, and that's it. And it was kind of great to be like giving that tough love, but also doing the workouts because I know how much time they need to recover. And there was that element of I just love the respect, but there was play as well because it's like, oh, really? You don't think that this is enough rest? Well, I'm doing it with you. So if I think so, then of course it's gonna work out. So having working out with the guys has been incredible because they do step up to that next level. Like when I'm on the line with them, you can kind of see they immediately go like, okay, we got to make sure we're on pace with Misha, if not faster. So I've seen that a lot. They also they so again they call me Miss. It's so sweet. I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am 30. I'm thinking like, what? I'm getting Miss. All right, I'll take it. And they asked me about form, which I think is really really cool because I used to be super critical of my form, and then now I remember how I was coached in the past and what I resonated with and what wording I didn't. So I really try and use words that are like, well, first of all, I'll do like the positivity sandwich, right? So what I think was good and then what they can improve on and what I think they're doing overall really well. Just that way they are like, okay, I don't, because immediately kids are going to think like, oh, I suck. It's like, no, 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 no. You're learning. You have to have a baseline. And I notice that they want to come to me more because I have this way about like, well, I'm doing the workouts with you, but it's like I want to help you. I'm not just trying to like put you down or tell you like this is wrong, this is wrong. Because I definitely have had in the past coaches, and funnily enough, people who weren't even my coach to come up to me in a workout and tell me what I was doing wrong. And I'm like, I didn't even ask you. Like, what is this? And mind you, all male coaches, just putting that out there, never had a female coach in my life come up to me and say this and this and this and this and this is wrong. But I digress. Very, very happy to be a positive role model who is a female coach, coaching male and female athletes and having like I would say a really positive impact on both because I'm doing the workout with, of course, the male athletes because we're running at the same time, and then I'm there with my female athletes because of course we're gonna talk about like how okay they're coming to practice. One of them might have some period cramps, and I'm like I get it, and of course it's like a very natural conversation to have because I understand and it's not something that I'm gonna like throw out aside and go like, oh, too bad. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna work with this. We're gonna work through it. Or if it's really bad, okay, let's do a bike workout. So there's always options that I give. And then also I notice the girls who want to push, I'll put them with the guys. I don't care. I'm not like worried if the guys are gonna think something because that's not the environment that we're creating. It's we're all gonna get better together. But you do notice when one of my faster girls I put with the guys. The guys, again, they kind of have this element of, oh, shoot, okay, I got to step it up. And I like that because I think we're creating already this really positive dynamic between the guys and the girls because they're coached by predominantly female athletes right now. Just so happens to be like that at UTTC. It's hilarious. Colleen Dodson, she and I talk about it all the time. Like, wow, it's not even on purpose. There's just so many women at UFT right now, and they I can see it. They really show up ready to work, and I think that I've done a good job of training alongside them, but also remembering that these are kids and they're very young, and so they're not going to know everything. So sometimes, for example, they'll come in late, and then I'll ask, "Did you warm up?" And they say yes, and then they do a run, and then they go, "Oh, my hamstring hurts," and I'm like, well, what did you do for warm up? They're like, oh, I just came here like 15 minutes ago. I'm like, okay, no, no. What are you doing? You're up. So that's where I forgot, right, the learning curve, making sure that but you also, I recognize I can't coddle them either because they still have to be self-reliant and they've got to learn some tough, some tough, lessons when it comes to track. Like you got to do proper work, you got to eat properly. I always get on them with food because these kids come from school, they have nothing. I'm like, guys, man, we have bars for them, which is really good. But it's nice and something I've done that Gavin Smelly, actually, he's the sprints coach at UTTC, and he said that he loved how I always took them through core, and now like I will get them to do the whole core session and stretch after because I remember I used to be a kid who I would run. I'd be like, I just did my workout, I'm out of here. And now it's like, no, no, no. I remember stay for the core and stretch because that's just going to get you ready for the next day. So I've noticed I've implemented a lot of things that I didn't do so that they can be even better. So yeah, it's been a really crazy, cool journey just since September. And I already feel like I've grown a lot more as a person and as an athlete being their coach.
I love that. And I love the concept of like being a coach and like using it as like your own growth as well. And like being like having that self awareness, I think is so cool. And okay, the last thing I want to ask you about before we let you go, this is like a really selfish one on my part. Thoughts for how girls and young women can like look for role models or like find role models that they have without falling into what I'm going to call like comparison trap or like imposter syndrome because you like want to look at these women who are doing amazing things, but like it equally like can make you feel kind of crappy about yourself. So how do we, yeah, tips for girls who are kind of struggling with that because it's like they want to have role models, but whenever they like kind of look at, like they're scrolling Instagram and they see your
Yeah,
workout, they feel like crap. Or they see it and they're like, oh, I
yeah,
can't do that. I
yeah.
must be doing something
I can do
wrong.
that.
Um,
Yes.
it's a
Okay.
weird balance.
I'm That's a really good question. There's a lot of layers to it. I'm going to try and organize my thoughts. I'll start off first from the perspective of like, a 16-year-old who's just starting in sport. Yeah, I would say first write about yourself, like how you're progressing before you go straight to Instagram to look at somebody who's been doing it for 10 plus years. Because if you're going to start to look at, like you just said, they're lifting 250 pounds and you don't even lift weights yet, like that's not what you should be putting your energy in. However, I do like when you use, for example, Allison Felix. She was my first like 400-meter. Oh my goodness. Yeah, she's my role model. And I liked watching her race because it wasn't so much about the time or like it wasn't really about like even her winning. It was just she always fought. Like I noticed that about her. She always fought to the finish line. Like she would run through the line. And I remember she also looked like me, like physiologically. We didn't have the biggest legs. We weren't the like most ripped 400-meter athletes. So I liked how she was so consistent and had a very similar like built as I did. So I like having somebody who you can say, okay, like this is a really fun athlete that I can look up to, but I would definitely stay away from like this is what they do in the weight room and this is what she does on the track, because that's where you and your coach need to come together, write out your program, or if you're just starting out in track, notice week to week like how's your energy levels, or obviously if it's your first race, just go out there and have fun, experience what does the gun feel like, the warm up, did you feel hype, focus on like your music, just first settling on what kind of athlete you are. I think that I would have actually really benefited from that because when I was in college, it was I want to say pretty the early days of Instagram, 2013. Oh my gosh. So it wasn't like it was very different back then. There was a lot of comparison, a lot of I hope I get likes. Oh my gosh, like just so superficial, so surface level, but it's okay. We're young, and so now I feel like there's a lot more information out there. So if you're gonna seek somebody out, it's just do it from a place of like, okay, curiosity, not I'm gonna mimic everything they do. And then also like I think it's such an important question that you're asking because I'll definitely fall into the trap of because we're in such a bubble when it comes to track. Like literally, I'm gonna look at my ranking. I'll see how many people are faster than me. So I think it's reminding myself of my own journey as much as I can. Like I don't care. Every day I have to tell myself it's okay that this girl ran 49 in her first race, and that is literally the time that I would love to run because then I could have there would be a lot of opportunities that would come my way if I ran 49 tomorrow. But I have to remember, right? It's like every time I do step on the track, there's a story behind that. Not being carded for the past 2 years, being injured last year, leaving my coach last year, having now a new, system that I'm operating in. I used to be fitness trainer 3 times a week and coach. Now I'm going to be full time running so I can be on the world championship team and be as strong as I can. So like, it's really important to just look at your like your not just your baseline but like what you've been actually going through and act and really really like study it so that you're not just saying wow, that girl's so much faster than me. Like that doesn't even cover, what's actually happening. And great for her, but you also don't know what that athlete has had to go through. And who knows if she's having the best time of her life running those times. And I hope that that person is. But you see, again, it's like you could go down such a rabbit hole thinking about the other person. So you may as well focus on yourself. And I would say ultimately you can use people as role models because you're like, wow, they inspire me to go to practice, to run fast. But I just would just stay clear of they're doing this, so I should do this. Remember that there's nobody who has the same story as you. And that's what makes, I think, sports so beautiful and so important. Like I'm 30 and I've already gotten so many people who go, are you still running? Oh, I thought you retired. And I laugh. I literally laugh just like that. I'm like, okay, because this is good. This is a part of my story. Now I can say, in 3 years' time, when I'll probably retire, who knows? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I love track. Okay, but in 3 years' time, I'll probably be able to say, wow, I remember when I was 30 and everybody was saying, aren't you retired? And I still kept going. And that's something that I don't think you recognize when it's happening, but obviously I'm going to look back and go, I'm so glad I kept going. And I didn't just say, oh, well, I guess they're right. I probably should just stop now. It's like, no. So yeah, it's really nice to remember what makes me unique, and how I noticed that, yeah, if I just kind of set, oh, I didn't run this time in college, or I didn't run this time my first Olympic team or whatever, it probably would have just like kept me right where I was. So I'm really happy that I've let myself grow and let myself make mistakes, and yeah, not compare myself to anybody else's journey now that I've committed to staying on my path. Yeah.
Love it.
I love it.
All right, Sasha with the science.
I'm like, you just like summarized so much of the awesome science. Like, are you reading the science in the background? I mean, to your point, well, great. You're a very well-rounded human. But, like the research says that, right? The research tells us, comparison is good, but to a point, right? It's good for inspiration until it becomes, something that hinders us from what we're doing. I want to go, right? I want to go back to a point you made before, Canadian women in sport, that idea that you're giving boys permission to invite the girls into the workout. So the next generation, what I hope happens, there's no more invitation, that it's just an expectation, right? But that you're but that you do it so organically that it happens in practice. I think the boys, they needed permission at first to have you there. But for those teammates, and I'm calling the women that you're coaching also teammates, for them to be able to step up to the line because you gave them the courage, right? All the role modeling science. In the show notes, I'll put a whole bunch of the studies and the other pieces of science that are really important. But I'm really thankful that you brought up comparison in such a strength-based way. And also just how you talk about coaching in a strength-based way, right? Everything that you've talked about in this podcast so far has been from a strength-based perspective. And I think so often we go from that deficit, right? Like, what am I doing wrong? But also, like, in the thinking about athletes right now, I think what you're doing a great job is to say, like, my job as a coach is actually to tell you what you're doing wrong, right? And you don't frame it that way, right? But if you want to get better, right, we do have to recognize like where we're not doing as well. But to your point, there's overwhelming amounts of research that say when we speak about it from a strength-based perspective, and as Neil Henderson, who's a triathlon coach, do you know him?
I do.
He said, weaponize your strengths, right? Too often in sport, what do? We look at like, oh, where am I doing poorly? And overwhelmingly now we're seeing in the science, like, weaponize your strengths, work on the things that you're really good at, because then you'll also start to close some of those like gaps and deficits that you have.
That's it.
I'll stop nerding out now. I will
I
turn it
love
back
that.
over.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
I was
That
going
was
to say,
awesome.
I love
Oh
that.
my
I
gosh.
love that was a perfect answer, perfect science summation. Before we let you go, Micha, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get your book, obviously, all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Oh, this was amazing. I would love to connect with everybody. You can find me on Instagram at Micha Jada Powell, on TikTok, that's at Micha Powell, I believe. And my book, Sprinting Through Setback, is now available at stronggirlpublishing.com. And it's also on Amazon as well. And it's one of my biggest, yeah, accomplishments to date, because I've reached so many people so far with my book that I feel like is going to transcend my track career, and I'm really really proud that Again, Molly, you like believed in me and my story, and that this is the first of many. I'm gonna put that out there of books that are going to be helping more and more people achieve their dreams and just not second guess themselves because it's let's stop that. Let's stop that. You know, we deserve to take up space. And so really excited to connect with everybody. And yeah, thank you again for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. And yes, obviously we'll have you back on for more topics. All right. With that said, have a lovely rest of your day, Micha. We will talk to you soon.
Oh my gosh, I will. Thank you so much.